Throughout our evolution, the complexity of our play has mirrored the complexity of our minds and culture. Some games we play are physical challenges of speed and agility. Some are games of chance. But the oldest and most consistent type is the strategic simulation of war and the fight for territory. Played for both education and entertainment, wargaming evolved from the abstract strategy of chess to simulate real-world battles with a higher degree of realism. In the 1970s, an offshoot of wargaming was created called Dungeons & Dragons. D&D shifted the focus from reenactment to fantasy, and from competing against other players to working as a team.
And each has an elaborate scoring sheet for his character, with points for wisdom and strength and the like.
Around the same time, large mainframes were popping up on college campuses, and students quickly figured out a way to hack them, porting the base concepts of D&D into digital form called multi-user dungeons. Now, users spread across a geographic area could dial in and play these text-based adventures together in real time.
Shall we play a game?
Video arcades offered a more visual and accessible way to play games on a computer. Though the games were only 1 or 2 player, arcades provided a social space where people could not only play, but watch others, looking for tips and tricks to increase their high score. Game systems continued to be miniaturized, made modular, and delivered to the home. This had the side effect of pulling players out of the arcade, making the experience less social and limiting spectatorship to live competitive events. However, oversaturation caused the market to go from boom to bust, with many game makers going out of business, leaving the field open for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Nintendo's success set off what would be known as the console wars, with Sega, Sony, and Microsoft joining the battle for dominance. In South Korea, PC gaming flourished, and with it, a rich culture of social gaming. Nearly 1/3 of the population play video games actively. There have been an average of 20,000 PC bongs, a combination cafe, restaurant, and arcade in a country of about 50 million. Compare that to only 13,000 Starbucks in the US, which has a population 7 times larger. As the internet became faster and more available, players from around the world could connect and compete.
Well, to get started, you'll need to get connected to the internet. You do that through an internet service provider.
An internet service provider? What's that?
Multiplayer gameplay on the internet was good, but it lacked a natural ability to watch others play.
So in the early days of esports, spectating was very crude. There was no streaming video. I mean, there wasn't video, period. There was no YouTube or anything like that. So when you wanted to spectate a game, you would have to load up the game, you'd have to join a spectator client, which was usually another member of the server, and then you would have to sync up an audio feed, basically like an internet radio station that was casting the match.
The popularity of esports is exploding, and so far the 2 main companies that have profited from the trend are YouTube and live streaming game app Twitch.
Twitch helped solve the problem of connecting players and spectators. It also created a new hybrid gamer/independent content producer known as a streamer. So now, the technology is at a level where spectators can watch and interact with players anywhere in the world in real time. But what are they watching?
Well, the most popular games are MOBAs, which stands for Multiplayer Online Battle Arenas. League of Legends pits 2 teams of 5 players against each other. Think of it as a combination of chess and capture the flag. Other games pit players against each other one-on-one. In StarCraft 2, players battle by controlling entire armies. This is a game of strategy, but quick reflexes are needed here. Another popular genre, first-person shooters. In Counter-Strike, players team up to complete objectives while shooting anyone who gets in their way. And finally, there's Street Fighter. Now, this classic is one of a number of fighting games that still attract an audience. It's a link back to the early days of competitive gaming, when people would crowd arcades to watch top players, and now you can watch it all online.
And it just so happens that kids who grew up playing those early video game systems are now in the key advertising sweet spot of 18 to 34 years old.
As video games continue to grow in popularity and live streaming capability improves, along with access to live stream games from mobile devices, the popularity of esports is exploding.
Approximately 300 million people worldwide are expected to tune into esports this year, and that number is expected to grow to 500 million by 2020.
And the esports economy is expected to eclipse 1.5 billion by 2020, behind growth and brand investment.
And that's expected to crest 3.5 billion by 2021, according to a report from Juniper Research. Riot Games, the creator of League of Legends, paid out over $6 million in prizes for League play in its 2018 World Championship.
Within the last couple of months, the Houston Rockets, Cleveland Cavaliers, and Golden State Warriors have paid $13 million each for a franchise in the North American League of Legends Championship Series.
The LCS will use revenue sharing to split money between Riot, the teams, and players. Both Riot and teams will contribute some money to a revenue pool from media rights, sponsors, merch sales, and team-branded digital goods.
You think about the size of the number of people like Call of Duty, 40 million people are playing and watching that game on an annual basis. Potentially you can deliver an audience of a similar size and caliber to what Thursday Night Football is, and obviously there's a lot of monetization there.
Soldiers, scientists, adventurers, oddities. Blizzard Entertainment is proud to announce the Overwatch League.
I'm joined now by Bobby Kotick, the CEO of Activision Blizzard, the gaming giant, Robert Kraft, CEO of the Kraft Group, as well as the New England Patriots. Now, Robert, you reportedly paid about $20 million for the rights to a team. Do you think the potential is really about building this into a live events business in Boston?
We do. We see it as a great opportunity.
So you have esports as a whole, which is all competitive gaming, but really it's broken up into individual components, and each of these things are huge and are selling out stadiums and they're selling out arenas.
And I know what you're thinking. Video games at a sold-out stadium is $200 just to get in the door, $1,000 if you want to be close to the stage.
So ESL will take a Counter-Strike tournament that you could be watching at home, but they'll put it in Barclays and they'll sell tickets to it. And they merchandise it. They sell jerseys for every team. I mean, they really do treat it as it is a traditional sporting event.
Now, there is a large sports tournament with a multi-million-dollar prize taking place in Seattle right now. The International is one of the biggest esports tournaments in the world.
I've been to the Key Arena for Sonics games, and I've never seen it sold out. I've seen kids watching Dota fill that arena and spill out onto the grass outside where they also have monitors set up to watch that tournaments.
And Bobby, this is the first time esports teams have been done on a city-by-city basis. Why did you want to make it city-oriented?
So we thought the most important thing was getting local recognition and developing that local bond that fans have with their teams, but it's never been done on a global basis.
We've heard from fans all over the world that the city-based nature of the Overwatch League is something that's really given them a reason to care. It's a great on-ramp into becoming a fan.
I think what they're doing is very revolutionary in that they are basically franchising teams in each city, and then they're allowing those organizations to draft players from around the world.
You know, we think the NFL is the best sports entertainment product, but it's basically in the US, Mexico, Canada, England. But here's something that has a global appeal, and we think we have some business skills where we can take advantage of that to get a global audience.
Okay, so let's talk about the future of esports. I mean, esports on television still hasn't been a great success.
Proud to take you into Skate or Die to check out the action. It begins right here on the street.
I think the obvious trend of people wanting to play skill-based video games and other people wanting to watch them play is very clear. Now the next step we have to get to is we need companies to be able to create the content that's very attractive for everybody to watch in a television format.
We know recently ESPN has dabbled in broadcasting esports.
I think what's really exciting is there's never been an esports event live in primetime on ESPN1. And I think what fans are going to see, they're going to tune in and they're going to see Philadelphia and London. It's going to look familiar to what they're used to seeing on ESPN.
And ESPN has aired various esports competitions, though ratings haven't been as massive as expected.
You know, as someone who's been involved with gaming on television before, and someone who's been involved with, gaming and esports now, you're truly talking about a terrestrial audience versus a global audience. When you think about it from that regard, we've got fans this weekend watching the International in China, all over Southeast Asia, in Latin America, in Japan, all over Europe, in the United States. And this is something that can be experienced that way by all these individuals because it's delivered via a global medium.
Everyone who's into this stuff, whether it's fighting game tournaments, watching professional MOBA, whatever, it's all streamed. They watch streams. I don't know anyone who doesn't watch these things on streams.
This generation of gamers, we were talking mid-20s or even early 20s and before, they don't watch TV anymore. No. They probably couldn't find ESPN2 on the fucking dial.
I can't.
Remember the oldie days of the dial? They haven't heard of the dial. They're too young.
In comparing esports to kind of the traditional television sports model, the first thing you have to understand is the difference in the communities that are watching them. So with esports, you have really, really niche communities because people who watch Counter-Strike don't watch League of Legends, don't watch Dota, don't watch Street Fighter, and vice versa. And they don't want to watch a 1 hour or a 2 or 3 hour broadcast. They want to watch a 12-hour tournament play out throughout the day.
Because of the nature of competitive gaming and esports, they tend to be really long events. They tend to not necessarily take commercial breaks. There's a lot of non-traditional things that go into the production of one of these large events.
And so when you talk about integrating sponsorship and bringing corporate entities into it, I think what you're really talking about is embedding or baking in sponsorships to the broadcast.
I still feel like a lot of companies are trying to figure it out. How do you sell into that? How do you monetize that? How do you grow these audiences from Amazon, Crackle, Hulu, Netflix, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook Watch?
So the new model of esports distribution is essentially to stream on every platform natively, and the result of that is, number one, you get more viewers and more views across all these platforms, and number two, because you're baking in all the sponsorship, you can sell against all the views on all these platforms and not worry about the control of ad breaks and things like that.
While there's a lot of excitement around the financial potential of esports, $1.5 or even $3.5 billion in projected revenue is still a fraction of what athletic sports currently generate.
And how are you broadening the accessibility to this sporting sector, as you call it, beyond hardcore gamers?
So what we're realizing is that there's already a lot of viewers. We estimate that just League of Legends esports viewers is about 70 million in China. And esports viewers in general is about 220 million. So what we're doing is to continue better the production quality, the quality of our product, making sure that we have better analysts, better games, more competitive leagues. And then we'll continue to market to the hardcore gamers and make sure that the mass audience actually can understand our game better.
The growth of esports is only part of a broader shift in viewing habits. Though fragmented, the viewership of video game-related content continues to eclipse that of all traditional streaming sources combined. The Battle Royale-style game, Fortnite, has captured the attention of millions of players and viewers alike. So much so that streaming giant Netflix singled out Fortnite as a prime competitor for consumer engagement over streaming services like HBO and Amazon. Though free-to-play, Fortnite grossed over $2.4 billion of game-generated revenue in 2018. For comparison, Avengers Infinity War grossed an estimated $2 billion worldwide. Non-players also broke records, viewing millions of hours of gameplay per month.
What's up, dude?
Wow, Ninja's here.
Hey, Pate, is that Ninja? Who's Ninja?
Video game master.
Now explain the business part of this. There are reports that you're making more than $500,000 a month. Where is most of your income coming from, and how important is Twitch becoming in this gaming ecosystem?
Right. A lot of the income is definitely coming from the Amazon and Twitch Prime subscribers. We also just hit 5 million subscribers on YouTube as well. And Instagram just hit over 1 million followers, and I'm almost there on Twitter. And just the combination of all of those things is really where just the collective revenue is coming from.
As advancements in technology continue to evolve the way we play, one thing is for certain: the future of esports lies with the fans.